Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If we can make a start, it's on 12:30. Before we start, I'm going to say item 7. We're not taking a paper on item 7. That will be brought to the next cabinet meeting, or I shall be making a verbal report on the consequences of the settlement. Item on the agenda is apologies for absence. No, that's good. Next item is disclosable pecuniary interest. Any member got any interest to disclose? No, fine, thank you. I mentioned that you are being filmed. If any member of the public is here, now is the time to tell us if you don't want to be filmed. No, fine. Next item is the minutes. Can I take that as a proper record of what transpired? Move seconded. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Item 5 from scrutiny, we have none. Item 4, public question time, we have none. Scrutiny, we have none. Item 6, the Treasury Management report. It's quite a lengthy report. It contains lots of valuable information, which is basically very similar to the one we considered last cabinet meeting. I'm asked to move the recommendations 2-1, to accept the position as set out in the report. Will somebody second that?
Yep. Second.
Right, anybody want to speak to in favour? No, with all those in favour of accepting the position set out in the report, please show. Thank you. Now item 7, this is the settlement. We are bringing, when we put more meat on the bones, we shall be bringing meat to the next cabinet meeting. But basically, 97% of councils have taken up the 4-year option. That's between 2016 and 2020, and that obviously includes the revenue support grant, business rate tariff, and the top-up payments. The government, however, needs to take account of any future arrangements between now and 2020. If any more responsibilities are passed on to local government or council mergers or extra responsibilities, the government will have to take that into account during each year's settlement. They've granted 100% business rate pilots in London, Manchester, Liverpool, Cornwall and West Midlands, and we are attempting to get them to be able to put hours in the pilot scheme. I don't think we've had success on that, have we, James? We haven't sure. We've asked to be considered to put in West Midlands in the pilot scheme. The new homes bonus reforms, if a council's got below 0.4% growth, they won't get any at all. Luckily, we've got 1.6% growth, so we shall be getting the new homes bonus. From 2018 to 2019, they'll withhold NHB from councils that do not have an effective plan which encourages housing development. I shall ask Mal to comment in a moment about that. I'm quite sure that we are either got one or we are in the process of drawing that up. In 17-18 they reduced the payout from 5 years rather than 6. This will reduce to 4 years in 2018 and 2019, which will cost us around £1.6 million. That money then has been transferred and redistributed to adult care, which gives us an extra £1.6 million. So the net result of those two leaves us about £0.2 million, about £200,000 out. So once again we've been disadvantaged, but the good news is they are looking at how they're going to fund adult social care in the future. And, you know, James is sitting on one of the work streams in Parliament, so we're hopeful to know more that will change, because at the moment they're still basing it on on council tax and need, rather than the amount of old people you've got and the actual care that providing the service. And the good news about Town Council, of course, that they've decided to further changes to Town and Parish Council precepts. But my understanding is the only council that would have fallen into that range would have been Bridgnorth anyway. But they've decided to defer those changes. That's just a statement to say where we are. We'll be preparing the next cabinet a full report for you to comment on. So Simon.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that another piece of news, and that is that we have actually looks as though we've actually reached the assessors level 3, the highest level for the Department of Transport incentive funding, incentivisation funding. We were planning on doing that in preparation for April 2018, but in actual fact we'll be submitting that to the government, and which will mean we'll get the increased income from next year.
Well, that's really good news then. That's really good news. Yes. Yes. I've got Cecilia then Alan. Oh, yeah, no.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to comment on the fact that the government is also proposing to do away with the Transitional Relief Fund, which was brought in largely as a result of pressure from rural MPs and local government leaders last year. They're proposing to do away with it, which I feel is going to put more pressure on rural, in particular, council tax. So that's just a warning.
Okay, thank you. Malcolm.
Thank you, Leader. I'm probably not going to be quite as positive as some of my colleagues around the table. I actually think the new arrangements with the new homes bonus are not helpful. If for me it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, isn't it? You know, they're taking away the money from us to give us back, to give us to adult social care. How can that be helpful? For me, it's not. I think the only positives you can come out of it is that when you think the target is 0.4%, and we're running at 1.6, I think we should be congratulating on that delivery, which has put us in a strong position to I think also I have to give credit to James sitting on the left, because he factored in, I think, that new homes bonus would potentially reduce over the next 4 years, and we did expect it to go down by 2 years. What we didn't anticipate was how it would go down and when. As the leaders indicated, next year it reduces by 1 year to 5, that goes to adult social care. The following year down to 4, and 2 years to adult social care, although it's money we've already got, that take it away, give us back. Marvellous. I think from James's point of view, we have factored that in, and I think James agreed. The only problem was we expected that in 2 years' time. It's actually come a year earlier, so that actually adds to the deficit, as it were, rather than helping us. As far as the policy goes, yes, our policies are in place. We've got the housing policies there. You'll all know that as far as new homes bonus, we're 28th in the country, delivering way above our weight in the new homes bonus we get. So we are in a good position. I'm waiting to see what the latest figures will look like, which will be helpful. But overall, I think for me it's not a good news story. It's just regurgitating the money and putting it somewhere else.
And before I bring Alan in, I've actually written quite a strong letter to the Minister, reiterating our concerns about the way we're funding elderly care. I mean, we as administration are really pressing the Minister about actually sorting this out to give us fair funding, so that we're able to discharge our statutory duties in elderly care. Alan.
I'm interested. Is this on?
Press the other one. Yeah.
It's probably well it's not, but just in case anyone's interested. I was interested to see the remarks that were made by Shrewsbury's Tory MP, Janet Kaczynski, about the amount of money that could be saved by merging the two local councils, that is Stockley Council and Telford, and the Wrekin Council. I wonder if there have been any discussions about this with Mr. Kaczynski, and what your reaction has been to his proposals to look at mergers. Certainly £20 million seems about, I think the last estimate was £6 million, but £20 million does seem a very attractive saving that would solve many of the difficulties of this council. And clearly we must look to his great wisdom as a well-respected, prominent and forthright and energetic MP when we're considering this. So it'd be interesting to know what your comments are, Malcolm, on his statements, and whether you are going to have an early meeting so that you can sort him out or sort the problems out. But apart from that particular question, I think your statements and Malcolm's statements shows the confusion that's surrounding local government and finance at the moment by this by the current government. Not only are they introducing or reinstating significant austerity measures, but they're flip-flopping all over the place on the various funds and various, and we're uncertain about what the inputs are going to be and what the differences are going to make. So are you making representations about the flaws in local government and the uncertainty and the damage that's being done to public services in terms of cuts and to local government generally in terms of a lack of predictability and problems created in long-term planning in the current circumstances?
The first question, Alan, about Telford and Wrekin, it's in our advantage at the moment to be actually working with Telford and Wrekin to see if we can have joint service and joint working on some things which will save them money and will save us money. I've told the leader of Telford and Wrekin that there are no plans whatsoever to make any moves to take over Telford and Wrekin, and I think they've actually passed a resolution in their council that they won't under any event even consider that. If you look at the time process that it would take to achieve that anyway, it's far beyond what would solve our immediate financial problems. This council is best served by acknowledging that Telford and Wrekin is a separate unitary authority, Shropshire Council is a separate unitary authority, and hope that we can work together for the mutual benefit of both of those authorities in the short term. That's clearly the way forward, and I've actually told the leader of Telford and Wrekin that situation, and I have to say, since we've spoken, that their willingness to cooperate with us now on joint services and looking at where we can amalgamate services has been greatly enhanced. So that's the position. On your second statement about the government's problems with our finances, of course this stems, and I know it's a long time ago, but it stems from the financial
Yeah, a
position.
bit boring as well, Malcolm.
I was hoping with the Christmas spirit we wouldn't actually be getting into this kind of debate, but I have to say, since you brought it up, Alan, it's no good ignoring it. This country was bankrupt 13 years ago with a massive deficit, and the Secretary of the Treasury leaves a note which says, sorry, there's no more money gone, you know, the credit card's been emptied. This has left the new Conservative government with severe difficulties on trying to give this country real good fiscal finances and make progress. We are not as a council asking for more money for local government. What this council is asking to do is a fairer share of the existing money. If the existing money that local government get was allocated according to how many people over 65, for instance, that we have in the county, acknowledging the large geographic area of the county, if they took all those really realistic things into view, as we hope they're going to do when they rehash the new formula, we should be okay. We should have sufficient finances to discharge all our duties and deliver excellent services, as we do, to the people of Shropshire. So really, I think you'd be better off directing that last question to Corbyn rather than us, because we've got common sense fiscal policies, and according to what he's suggesting, this country would just again be driven back into the ground. So I hope that clarifies the situation. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. It is about this, and I should be interested to see the paper at the next Cabinet about the effect of the proposals that were made. My understanding is that if this council adopted the 330% increase that has been offered, in actual fact, this council in 1920, which is the third year from now, and I see we've got a paper later on bringing forward the third year, at council, I said £27 million was the whole, and there's no proposals yet in how that's going to be filled. It will increase, because the income to this council from council tax will be below what is predicted in the financial strategy which was adopted by council last week, which I don't think is good, and I would hope that you would include this in the letter that you write to the Minister about fairer funding, to say that 330 does not, might help us for the first 2 years, but the third year it makes us worse off than what we predict now, and it will create the big black hole even bigger.
Well, I won't do that, Roger, because I've already done it in no uncertain terms. I've written to the Minister. If ever it was the deck chairs and the Titanic, this was it, and I'm not making any excuses, but I think our government has got it wrong. If you actually add up 3% first year, 3% the second year, and nothing in the third year, and compare that with 2% in the first, 2% in the second, and 2% in the third, you are better off as we are. I think there's some debate whether or not money in hand, and money in hand rather than in the bush is an advantage. And there is a debate the Cabinet will be having on how we actually approach that particular instance, but there's no magic panacea for us in those calculations, and I've written in no uncertain terms to the Minister telling him that, so that's already been done. Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, can we move the recommendation in second? All those in favour, please show. That's carried, thank you. We move on to item 8, the Asset Assurance Board for Star Housing, over to Mal.
Thank you, Leader. The next two papers are mine. As Leader has indicated, Asset Assurance Board for Star Housing. If I can take you straight down to the third paragraph. It says the governance framework and the terms of reference have not been formally agreed between the parties, which has highlighted the potential significant weakness in the governance arrangements. That's what it says. So what we've done, we've taken the opportunity to look at it again, and we've decided to change things around slightly. We currently have the Housing Governance Board, which is chaired by Tim Barker, and a number of people sit on it and obviously monitor what's happening at Star. We intend to split it into two functions. The new section will be the Asset Assurance Board, which will pick up the current stuff and all that relates to Star. But anything strategic, rather than going to that board, will go to the Social Housing Forum, and I think it is the right place for strategic, because that includes all our registered providers in Shropshire around the table and all our partners. I wouldn't like anybody to go away just because they've heard me say that and think that because we haven't done that formal agreement with them that there's anything wrong with the way that Star is functioning. Just to put you in the picture, they've just had 3 audits done, and they're in governance, risk management and financial management, and they've actually got the highest score that you can get on all 3. So I'm delighted by that. Well done to Star for the work that they've done. So we have been operating, just literally haven't had it formally done. So this is the new format that they've agreed with us and that will carry us forward for the future. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Will you move the recommendation?
Sorry, move the recommendation.
Yes, is that seconded recommendation? Seconded. Madge, I think you wanted to say.
I'll be quick. I hope I'm going to be pleased with the new arrangements for Star, but I have to ask the portfolio holder and Cabinet, when, I presume it'll be under the Asset Assurance Board, when are you going to resolve the problems of that nasty baby that Bridgnorth District Council left us? And I do apologise for that, I was part of the council at the time, of these sewerage systems. It's ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. It's a perpetual problem for the 2 in my patch, with an action group which has not gone away. It's only got more vigorous, if you like, and more determined. I made a suggestion many years ago about what we should do at that time, and what I would have done if I'd been able to have had any power in Bridgnorth District Council, because I think the officer time that has been spent for the last 7.5 years on this, if you added up the finance to it, would be astronomical. So can I urge Cabinet, give me a nice New Year's present and solve those sewerage problems, please, if you will.
I'll come a bit round next week with his shovels.
I think for the benefit of everyone, so you're all aware of what we're talking about, and the problems come along because of the sewage works that we're talking of in extremely rural areas. It's not just us, by the way. There's several registered providers have the same issues. Some of these situations are not as good as they can be. But what has happened is over the years, because you've sold properties on the right to buy, you've ended up with those within star housing properties paying through the rent for the sewerage, and those that have purchased their properties paying nothing. Now that cannot be fair. They've clearly got to be paid something. And I'm just going to quote a couple of things that I got from your own, Madge, from your Shropshire Rural Housing, from Ian Richardson, who was very helpful and he was trying to resolve it.
Absolutely.
There was a couple of figures put forward that it went through all the legal process, and it was agreed that they would pay £8 per week. Those that went on it currently to pay, well, were using it to pay for it. And the figure that the Shropshire Rural came up with was actually £3 per week. Now, I'm not sure which is right and which is wrong. I actually concur with Matt. This has gone on for far, far too long. I think somebody needs to make a decision and come up with an agreement and then move on with it. So I will chase it up. It has been raised, but we'll take it up again. I can see Robert's waiting to...
Robert.
Would you mind if I've got a similar but different problem to Madge, in that I've got a number of people who bought ex-British North District Council houses and are under an obligation to contribute towards the upkeep of the sewage systems. And some of them have paid and some haven't. And I think that too is grossly unfair. And I know that Council's opinion has been sought on this, at least I was told that it had been, but absolutely nothing has happened. I'd rather wish, like Madge does, that we really resolve it, even if it's to wipe the slate clean.
Yes.
And start hopefully trying to negotiate new contracts or new deeds of variation to the existing conveyances so we can regulate. But it's not equitable.
Very quickly, just to respond to Robert again, I totally concur with you. It's all about fairness. It's got to be. Everybody's using the system, using the scheme really should be paying to it and contributing. So it needs to be sorted out. I'll pick it up. The senior officers have heard it, so hopefully that will get it moving. I was going to say.
Oh, you are smart.
I'm trying. You're right. It's gone on far too long. It needs to be dealt with.
Okay. All those in favour of recommendation 2, please show. Right, that's carried, thank you. We move on to 9, again that's MAR, proposed consultation on public spaces protection order for Shrewsbury Town Centre.
Okay, thank you, Leader. I have to go back to several months ago when myself and officers of the council were invited by Councillor Andrew Bannerman to meet with residents and businesses within Shrewsbury Town Centre. It was an extremely well attended meeting, probably well over 200 people in the room, and I believe that people turned away. And they wanted to basically register their dissatisfaction with some of the antics that go on in Shrewsbury Town Centre and what can we do to rectify it. What I want to do quickly is I'll refer you all to point 6.6. I've got the right one. 6.6, because this paper is the last paper, a number of papers that have been produced to deal with issues in the town centre. And you'll see that the first one was the site management agreement, the public fundraising. I call them chuggers. Those who have been on Pride Hill have been approached by people who pester you and they want you to buy into certain things. That was the first paper that was produced in conjunction with Town Council and is now in operation, so they can only operate in Pride Hill at certain times of the day and of the week. The second one was about the nighttime economy itself. There's been many issues around licensing issues. Years ago, we always used to work with the town as you had 11 o'clock finished at one area, 12 at another, and then worked all down to the nightclubs. That nighttime economy paper is currently being produced, and that should be out just, I thought, hopefully in the new year. Another one that we had recently was the student accreditation scheme. I don't need to go into that. You've all seen it in its purpose and what it's going to do. The other one is the Purple Flag that we worked with Town Council to set up and make sure that the nighttime economy is running as it should do. And they got the Purple Flag Award. But the one that was left is the one that's before you now, which is the public space protection order. And I have to say a thank you to Grant sitting at the front there, Grant Tunnerdine, for the work that he's done and for the team in Public Protection to bring this together. It's not been an easy thing to do. You've got to have the evidence. And those of you who have read through the report will probably be staggered by some of the evidence you've read and actually what does go on. But there are four main areas, really, which I just want to go through for the benefits of we're all aware. This is a consultation paper. We'll go out for 8 weeks. We'll be consultating on four main areas. And the first one is that it says about urinating and defecating in the public area. Clearly that's been a problem in the town centre, it needs to be dealt with. The second one is leaving personal belongings without reasonable excuse. There's a very concern there for the health and welfare of anybody else should go along and pick up some of those items. It could be academically working within them, and clearly they become a problem in the street. The third one is the consumption of alcohol in the public area, and that, that's the third one. And the fourth one, it says persons behaving or causing nuisance, alarm, harassment or distress to any other person. And if they're caught by that, they could be asked to leave the area for 48 hours. What I would point out is this is another tool in the toolkit that the police want to use. It doesn't mean saying they're going to use them. I think most people, if they were confronted and were challenged by any of these issues, would do the right thing and it wouldn't be an issue. But if they don't, then they could be subject to the order, which is part of the consultation. It means that if they were, they would be served with a ticket and a £100 fine. That's what's in the consultation document. So I think for me it's about making sure the town centre is a place where residents, business and visitors alike can enjoy without having the issues that we've got here. Some people might think this is targeting rough sleepers. It is not. It is targeting anybody who should use the town centre and does not use it in an appropriate way. So, very good document. I'm very chuffed with what the officers have done in regard to the report. Let's do the consultation for 8 weeks and see what we get back. And I say, if it works out right, it'll be an extra tool for the police to use. I'm happy to take your questions.
Is that seconded? Stu seconded. Right, Roger first.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I reckon I've read all the evidence, and some of it I recognise from when I represented the town centre. It is an issue and it has increased. I do have a little bit of concern though. I see the map on page 65 where it's going to be the area affected on the proposal, and then I look at page 102 or 103 and look at the areas where there are problems, and I see Frankwell, which is highlighted there as an area, is not going to be included in it. Neither is past the railway station going to be included in it. But certainly Frankwell, I would have thought, looking at the concentration of what is there, I'd have thought consideration should be given to there. However, looking at if Frankwell was included, it is a little bit of concern that will it be shifted outside the river loop into other areas, because I think that was the concern some years ago when it was adopted in these squares. Something like this was adopted there. Would it move it out into other parts of the town centre? So it is an ever increasing problem. Associated with, and if I've heard rightly, the time scale for the planning guidance, that's going to be in the new year, I think you said, which is to be welcomed. I know Councillor Bannerman has raised problems over that on some of the planning applications which have been before the appropriate planning committee, so that is welcome. But I also have concerns about the rough sleepers and what we're doing, because looking at this, I looked at rough sleepers, and if I read the figures correctly, and there's an article in today's Guardian apparently which shows that it's doubled in the last 6 years. If I look at the government statistics for this authority correctly, it shows that we've got 7. To me, we've got a lot more than that. When you look at England, excluding London, seen an increase of 37% between 2014 and 2015. I think we should have done the statistics and done the inspection between October and November of this year to be submitted to government. And I'll be interested to know how many rough sleepers we've identified in Shropshire Unitary Authority. To say there's 7, I don't understand how those figures have been arrived at. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Roger. Stuart, sorry, do you want to answer?
Can I reply? I'm happy to reply to Roger's. Firstly, I'm pleased that you supported, I hope that Andrew supported the work. That's why I mentioned all the other documents. There's a lot of work been done in Shrewsbury Town Centre in the last 12 months. What I also want to make it clear is actually Shrewsbury Town Centre is not a bad place to be. Let's not get that.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's not make it sound as if it's World War III and there's a problem. There are issues. They're confined to certain areas, and that's what this document will deal with. With regard to Frankwell and the railway station, again, I've heard your comments, and the officers have heard it also. What I would add, that of course the area that we've identified was done in consultation with our partners, and particularly West Ministry Police. So it's the areas that they thought were appropriate, where they say there are issues. One important part is about the rough sleepers. At one stage, we were up to 48 people allegedly classified as, not allegedly saying they're rough sleepers. The biggest problem you've got, the majority of people in the town centre are not rough sleepers, they are beggars. They've got roofs over their head, they come into Shrewsbury Town Centre because they get paid very well. And at this time of year, it's not unusual for a female to earn £400 a day, just by sitting on the streets of Shrewsbury and people are giving them handouts. So why wouldn't they do it? So the official count is done on a set date each year, Roger, and it's done by all the partner organisations who go out around the town centre and the county, and they come together and they get a fixed figure of who's out there. The figure we submitted to government was 13. That is the figure that we've had. Everybody who's on that, as a part of the 48, it was considered, why has it suddenly become 48 people in town? We increased the task force work, which included West Ministry Police, housing options, mental health, full team go out in a car, and within a week they got those people down to half the numbers. The current number that I'm led to believe that's actually on the street is 7. Everybody out there has been offered a property under the cold weather provision. As you'll recall, or may not recall, we have a duty. If there are 3 consecutive nights of frost, we have a duty to find appropriate accommodation for those people. I've never applied that ever since we started in this organisation, because it's funny how the press, excuse Sam, I'm not having to go at you, the press always come along, and this time of year they talk about poor old rough sleepers. Well, they ain't rough sleepers just at Christmas, they're rough sleepers all year round, and that's where I come from. Regarding the cold weather provision, I've always said middle of December till the end of February they will be offered accommodation, so there won't be 3 consecutive nights of cold. If they want to go into a property between those dates, they can. The ones that are still on the street are the ones that have refused that accommodation. So I'm satisfied that everybody's out there, been offered accommodation. Those that happen to refuse it, that's their right, that's their choice. But to just make figure again, 13 was submitted on the official counts. The actual rough sleepers at this time are 7, and that's confirmed.
Stuart.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm more than happy to second the recommendations here. We are trying to encourage more visitors to Shrewsbury for the daytime and the nighttime economy, which is very buoyant. And anything that stops these, prevents these horrible incidents going on that have been highlighted by Mal, I would certainly support. These orders have been successful in other parts of the country, extremely, and possibly in the county, I'm not sure about the county, but certainly in other parts of the country where there have been problems in the past. So to make Shrewsbury, our county town, a more desirable place to come to, knowing full well that you're not going to be confronted by the situations that Mel's already outlined, I'm more than happy to second.
Yeah, I've had an email of Andrew Banning, by the way, saying he supports the recommendations. Okay, Alan.
No one can not support this. It's a good paper, and it's been some time in its making, and it's been supported by the evidence base that's been provided by a large number of Town Council and Shropshire Council, as well as the police and others. But I just and congratulations on those who've compiled such a complex document and brought this forward. I just wanted just to reiterate the point that Roger's made there, in that I represent Castlefield, which is on and Dillington on the fringes of the town centre. Lots of activities that take place in the town centre, obviously spill out into that area, and it has its problems associated with that. So I do hope that this concentration on the town centre now and into the future will not lead to a lack of resources or diminishing resources being given to completing with other agencies to cope with the problems that may start in the town centre but come out into the areas like Belgium, like Castlefield, like Francois.
Do you want to respond to
Just
that?
very quickly, firstly to Roger, apologise, I didn't answer the question because you did ask that. And I concur with both of you. I think it's something we've got to monitor because you can, if you start doing this, you can displace the issues into another area. So yes, part of the process will be to monitor what actually works with these when we get through the consultation and it goes into place. And when it's in place, what impact is that in other areas? I think the point is well made.
Okay. Well, it's been moved in second. Oh, sorry, Michael.
I'll be very brief, Chairman. In the previous incarnation, of course, I chaired licensing, and there certainly are remedies where a venue can be seen to be contributing to more of this unsociable behaviour, not necessarily involved with rough sleepers at all, but where it is occurring and we can identify remedies available, as Francis Darling, Senior Officer over here, and concur. So I do say, if these places are identifiable, then let them go to some hearing under enforcement through the licensing process. It is an assistance we can use.
The venues are often toilets, Mike.
Okay.
I think that's certain establishments.
Hang on, can you stop talking across the thing, Malcolm?
It was just to respond to that and probably what Alan was just saying as well. It's about the toilets. I missed the one initiative that I don't think it comes through Fogwatch where it came was about the go before you go. So if someone's in a public house, they'll see the signs and figure out go and use the toilets before you leave rather than in the street. So I think we are trying to do everything we can to resolve the issues.
I think we made it quite clear though that Shrewsbury is still a very nice place, a nice medieval town to visit, and we should be encouraging all we can to get tourists into it. Very pleasant place to visit, and we extend that I think to the whole of the country come and see Shrewsbury. Okay, all those in favour of the resolution, please show. That's carried clearly. Move on to item 10, which is the ICT strategy. Michael.
A continuation of the process commenced last year at full council, subsequent to which Michelle Lee, who was the senior responsible officer, together with Paul Voigt, who was the programme manager, we visited audit and stood the scrutiny of their endeavours. But this is just a continuation. The paper has been through directors, and so it has stood that part of the scrutiny process. But I'd just like to draw attention to the key strategies. In 1.1 we have the Council's corporate plan, and in 1.2 the workforce strategy, because the report is in two parts. It sets out to ensure that the Council has the right people with the right skills, and this is the important thing, right skills in the right place and at the right level and at the right cost. In 1.3 we talk about the IT strategy itself, which is a key component for the delivery of high quality IT support for the organisation. I'm sure you're all reading it the same as I am, but it will fulfil the IT governance and compliance roles, for example PSN compliance. It also outlines the role of the IT in disaster recovery and business continuity. I'm basically, Chairman, open for any questions that may arise, but essentially I'm moving recommendations 2122. I so move.
Is that seconded? Is that seconded? Seconded. Okay, Alan, you want to speak to this?
Thank you. Regarding the workforce strategy, I skimmed through this and I can only find the terminology trade unions on one occasion in the document. So my question is, in an authority where industrial relations have not always been brilliant and there have been significant controversy over conditions and terms of service, to what extent have the trade unions been consulted? What has been their level of involvement and contribution to this, and what, if any, further negotiations and discussions is planned going forward?
Michael?
Yes, I can say to you, Alan, quite confidently that our trade union relationships are very good through the EJC. They have been involved with this, they've seen it and they've signed up to it.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't know where you get that from. We've always had good relations with the trade union. We meet them regularly and talk to them, so I don't know where that's come from. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. As far as the last question goes, there used to be joint meetings between all the political parties joined together a number of years ago. It would be good if that could be introduced, and then we would all know what was happening and how we were getting on with the trade unions. But my question is, well, there's two questions. One on the workforce strategy. I'm not sure about the date when some of the figures are there. I can't see a date on it. Is some of the figures, especially where it shows it on page 8 and 9, are they the up-to-date figures on it? And I'm not quibbling, it's just so that we've all got a datum on which to work. So there. But also in the IT strategy, I see a little bit like Alan. I see no reference about councillors and where they are. And I'm not sure whether councillors are included in the IT strategy or not. A number of councillors are having difficulty with their IT. And I note on page 45 where it says a mobile phone network contract would be signed by December. I'm being told that there are difficulties with it because some have asked about it. And the previous mobile phone contract was with a network who does not cover a lot of South Shropshire. So there are a number of councillors who are having great difficulty in using the phones that were supplied by Shropshire Council to communicate and things like that. So I was promised it would be taken forward. Can I be assured that it is, and just place it, please? Thank you.
Yeah, Michelle, do you want to go to that?
Certainly, Chair. We are currently have a preferred provider called Gamma Communications for the mobile phone contract. What they have got is a range of networks, so we could use the best network available, and where it is particularly sparse coverage, there is a specific SIM that we can issue to officers at a very reasonable cost, where they can use any network. They're not tied to a network.
Okay, and the first question, Michael, we wanted about the figures. Are they current or?
Is this page 8 that you're looking at?
Well, through you, Chairman, there's a lot of figures there about we employ, and the rest of it on page 8 and 9, which is, I think it's the report itself, and it's just to get a snapshot on it. Are they current, or because I see on page 7 it refers to October 2015, etc. So I'm just trying to get an idea. Thank you, Chairman.
Given in good faith, in good faith, but what I will do, Roger, I'll come back to you with the exact date.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Alan.
Just to come back on that point, I think you have to be wary of being over-complacent about the attitude of staff and the extent of harmonious relations. I mean, you might have forgotten the controversy it was when Shropshire Council imposed significant degradation in the terms and conditions of service of staff. And it's not so long ago that I recollect the secretary of the local branch of the union came to the council meeting and said how upset staff were and how much they had suffered compared to other council employees because of the freeze on pay and because of the various reductions that had taken place, and made a plea to the council to restore the terms and conditions as had been promised they would receive some time ago, and talked about the staff morale, talked about problems of retaining staff and also problems of recruiting. So to say that everything's hunky-dory in this authority in terms of staff and industrial relations is absolute nonsense.
I said we had good relations. I didn't say it was hunky-dory. There's always obviously will be a difference, and a lot of the problems in the past actually were about protecting jobs, because had we not done what we had to do, there would have been less people working for us. And I believe our staff are the best and the biggest resource that this council's got. It's the people we employ who deliver all these excellent services to the people of Shropshire, and all credit to them. I think the staff of this authority now are are in good heart and understand that we're going in the right direction. So we do meet regularly. We understand the trade union's point of view. It'll be different from ours from time to time, but as long as we meet and we were able to discuss that freely and openly and come to an understanding, and that's the right way things should be done. Anyway, it's been moved and seconded.
I'll just make a couple of comments, Chairman. Alan did come to the council meeting and he put his case quite eloquently, as you'd expect. And the other part of it, Alan, he would say that, wouldn't he? But on the same token, he also recognised the difficulties the council's in and understands that we will look at these matters further as and when we are able to.
Thank you. Anyway, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the motion, please show. Anybody against? No, that's carried. Thank you. We move on now to item 11, that's the amalgamation of Hope C&E Primary School and Worthing C&E Primary School and St Mary C&E Primary School of Westbury. David Millery.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I should be very brief. This is the second time that this matter has been before us. There are two recommendations today. One is to note the outcomes of the statutory consultation, and they're included in the paperwork. And secondly, to agree to proceed to the publication of the closure proposals. The target date of the 1st of September 2017, from some consolidated provision on an expanded site at work. I draw members' attention to the conclusions, which are you'll find on page 151 of the pack, where it says the Cabinet need to be satisfied that the improvement in educational outcomes from the proposed amalgamation will be secured and sustained in the medium to long term. They need to consider the impact of the fall in pupil numbers and be satisfied that the amalgamation would not have a negative impact on the financial sustainability and educational outcomes of the students going forward. And you will see from the report that the Director is satisfied and I'm satisfied that that test has been met. So the next stage is to go out and for another 6-week period to come back in, I think, March for the final. I think it was the 1st of March scheduled for to take the final decision. Move recommendations.
Is that seconded? Is that seconded? Roger?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Heather Kidd sends her apologies today because she's one of the councillors involved in this, and she's asked me to read this short statement out. And it is generally in support of what the cabinet member is saying. It is with great sadness that I realise that there is no alternative to Hope School's closure. The lack of affordable family housing in our very rural areas is driving families away from their roots, even when they work locally or have childcare locally. The numbers of children attending Hope School are no longer financially viable. The real issue now, though, is the sustainability of Hope and Bent Lawn. This closure is the final straw for the shop and post office, which will now close on January the 4th, as the daily parent trade has now ceased. The post office is trying to find alternative ways to deliver their services in this remote area, which has some...
Roger, we really don't want a political statement.
No, it isn't, and it is. We make the plea that rural communities' sustainability must now be made a priority for the council if we are to keep the rest of our village schools viable, balanced, and the generations in the settlements. So that's the thrust of it. Yep, we recognise the schools having to amalgamate, but concerned about the rest of the network, and Cabinet, I would hope, will support that we do need to regenerate the rural settlements and the rural areas. That's where I'm coming from, Chairman.
Well, it's nice the Liberal Democrats supporting the administration's actions for a change. Right, anyway, it's been moved and seconded. All in favour of the resolution, please show. Anybody against? Right, it's carried. Item 12 now, exclusion of the press and public. That's on the move, please. Move that seconded. Seconded. Well,